word often found in twin flame topics is triggers. I was led to point out what a trigger is, and I'm glad that my higher self led me to do this because I misunderstood what a trigger actually is. I thought it was when someone does something that bothers me that causes me to react negatively. But a trigger is more than something that doesn't resonate with us. When we get upset or bothered in some kind of way, it's a vibration that doesn't resonate with our authenticity, with our soul. And that's just us processing emotions that turn to feelings. And feelings are part of how we align with our higher self because we're feeling it out. That's why we say that resonates with us or doesn't resonate with us. But a trigger is much deeper. And a quote I found from Psych Central is: in general, when a person is triggered, they're being provoked by a stimulus that awakens or worsens the symptoms of a traumatic event or mental health condition. And I'll leave a link below to that article. In your mind, you may have been conditioned to certain kinds of responses to triggers. It's how your ego responds out of fear by trying to keep you safe. For instance, one of my abandonment wounds was from a relationship I had with a friend who turned into an intimate relationship. He was a guy I worked with, and he was interested in me, but I didn't reciprocate at first. And he respected that. We were good friends for a couple of years before I became interested in more. Since we saw each other almost every day, we got to know each other really well. We started hanging out with each other and with other friends. But I found out he had a really big jealousy problem. And there was a scene one day at work with another guy, and the guy I was seeing reacted by hooking up with another woman we worked with that very night. And then he made a show of it the next day at work, which was how I found out about it. And I think we only spoke one time after that, even though we still worked together for another 2 years or so. But it was something that took a long time for me to process, and I buried some of it and moved on from it. But after I awakened to my spiritual journey, I was led to pull that up because I did have some things to look deeper into with that, even though I felt I had worked through most of it a long time ago. But still, without even realizing that wound was causing me to react in certain ways that showed through in my interactions with my relationships, but also, especially with my twin flame. Things like not getting a response from someone when you text them. Okay, so of course, to me, it's normal to be bothered when you text someone, they don't respond after a reasonable amount of time, of course. And maybe you even make another attempt. Because I'm sure most of us have done that. We look at a text and we mean to respond later, but we forget. And sometimes when this happens to us, we take it personally. And most people, I can get over that quickly. But there's no way I'm going to forget about texting my twin back. And if they were to do that to me, then of course I'm going to really feel that. And that was actually my reaction. The first time he stood me up, I texted him to ask him if he was still coming over. And he was like, "Oh, I should have texted you. I can't make it." I responded with a yeah. WTF? Did you just forget about me? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Like, this is something we see with twin flames: ghosting, unanswered texts, being blocked. And this was something I did as well and had done with other people in my life. So when I acknowledged that, I was later led to heal those parts of myself that caused those actions and that triggering. From this, though, is where we later learn that it's not about them, why they did it and all that. It's about how we look out for ourselves with our boundaries. And I think also it's in our reactions, feeling out what resonates with our inner being, which means we react in loving authenticity. Respecting yourself is in there too, because for me, it was hard for my ego to let go. Of course, I mean, that's part of what this is about. But I felt it was the right thing to do for myself, not to text him or even let him know I was bothered. And I actually heard my inner voice tell me, let him come to you. And this was before I knew anything about twin flames, but I had been through that kind of thing one too many times. So I just told myself to drop him. This was 2 days after we met, soul recognition. And my activation was just kicking in. So I had no idea what was about to happen. For me, if I feel I'm being triggered, I try to look at my ego because the ego operates from fear. This is why when we're out of our balance, the ego is running things and our reactions are mostly based on fear. Maybe not all the time. I mean, just because the ego may be in charge doesn't mean we're completely denying our intuition. But it's when we balance into our authenticity, we have balance between our ego and our intuition. Because there's a common misconception that comes with the widely used ego death that we are to completely rid ourselves of our ego. But we have our ego to help us survive and function in our environment. Fear and love are poles, and we can't function or even survive without that ability to discern through love and fear. And if you haven't watched The Key to Everything, I talk about how our feelings come from either love or fear. By allowing ourselves to be in our emotions, we can find our balance by recognizing how something makes us feel. For example, balancing our intuition and ego enable us to experience our reality equipped with both. How powerful is that? So we can draw from both as we need. And when they work together like that, having the ability to discern when and how to use my ego or intuition, that's harmony. And that's part of my unique balance with my soul. And as we go through healing the traumas that have triggered us in the past, we get closer to our authenticity. And the closer we get to our authenticity, the more we are able to keep our balance when we're faced with adversity.